Hello and welcome to the June 2021 garden tour. The garden is located just outside of Toronto. It's a USDA Zone 5 garden, or in Canada we would refer to this as a Zone 6A, 6B garden. This garden is about 24 years old. Lots of changes over the last couple of years, from large trees that have fallen over and had to be replaced, so all new gardens, and also lots of learning as I've gone along. So let me just show you a couple of things in the garden that I enjoy. So one of the things that I love is this herb tower. The herb tower did fall apart last year and we had to have it all rebuilt. And I'm very glad that it was able to be restored. It's a bit of an investment, but we just love it. So at the top we have chives and some basil. Then we have different types of thyme. This is a lemon thyme, and we also have over here some nasturtium seeds and some lemon tarragon, and at the bottom we have oregano as well as some lemon verbena. I really like the lemon citrus flavors. So just also this year we also picked up a beautiful standard rosemary, so it's just gorgeous. I'm hoping that I can overwinter that, although I tend not to have success. Let me just turn around and show you the other side. So right behind me is our fountain, and I like to keep that on. It drowns out sounds of highways and planes and the ongoing construction that's going on behind us. This fountain was just picked up at Canadian Tire probably about 10-15 years ago. You can see it has a really nice height, and it does fit in this area quite lovely. Over in the corner here we have a table and chair set. For those of you that remember, this was a white rose product, so a good 25 years old, maybe 20 years old. It used to be green and I painted it white. That's the cool thing about iron stuff. It lasts a long time and you can paint them any color you desire. This is just a little arrangement that I put together. It's the saucer from like a terracotta saucer with a nice little dome over it and some beautiful stones and things that I've picked up. Over here, this is my basil. I have different colors here. We really have found a great spot for basil to grow. We enjoy that micro basil a lot. And then we have some hens and chicks, and these hens and chicks just go exactly as is into my garage every winter. And then we also have some very nice tri-colored sage. So here's just a different perspective of the same deck. The Muskoka chairs are just from Costco. And then I have this nice little arrangement right here, just planting it up this morning. And that's really to disguise the actual steps that don't go right across there. And then in each of the corners I have some Vista series petunias. They'll fill up and they'll create a skirt right around those entire pots. And then in the obelisk I just have Christmas tree lights. And then in the hanging pots we have different types of geraniums, and that's just one of those fake wasp nests. It does the trick. Inside this tree up here there is a beautiful bird's nest, and you can hear the birds chirping, and they do a great job of feeding all their babies. These are yet to be done. This is today's project. I need to take out all the seeds in here and then reestablish these as beautiful succulent arrangements. And then we also have a whole bunch of plants that we grew from seeds, different types of cosmos, some amaranth, some zinnias, and we have a ton of these little cucamelons, tomatillo, and lots of tomatoes. We have all our pots all filled up. We have Creeping Jenny that just hangs down the sides, does a great job. We also have lovely pansies. They last all year long, and sometimes they reseed. You can add them to salads, so that's one of the reasons we have them here. So I'm very mindful of what type of fertilizers I use on my plants. This is that cascading red bud with the beautiful heart-shaped leaves. And then over here you can see that the ivory silk lilac is in bloom, which is lovely. Our other trees have all finished up here. Over here by the future pot, also planted up with some Vista Series petunias, as well as some of the same pansies. We planted those pansies back in April just to get us through the season. And then behind it we have some lovely peonies now in bloom, which is just gorgeous. I just want to share what the view looks like from this side. When I plant up those pots, I try to have a different view with the colors, so that as you look down here it's more purples, but when you look back here it's more pinks. And then here's the view of the garden from a different angle. This is the archway, and on either side we have some Spanish lavender underplanted with some more Vista Series petunias and those lovely blue pots. That's lamb's ears in the gray, and then the hostas and the Japanese maple. All the colors have been all thought out so that we have colors and textures and things going on all season long. In about a week from now, all of the trees will have finished blooming, and we'll just be working on textures and whatever in the pots. And this is our raised beds area. We have all our vegetables in there, everything from in the two pots that you see in the front there. Those are some really lovely little strawberries that are just starting to bloom and size up, which is exciting. We also have some lettuce. This lettuce has been in the ground since February, so very, very nice and abundant. And you can see some of them are just starting to bolt, and that's okay. Last night I just came in and I cut down in the middle, took out the bolting part. It will grow from that spot. And you can see that we also have a lot of stuff going to seed. This is last year's Swiss chard. I do have new ones planted. And then I planted all of this beautiful dark kale. Some people call it dinosaur kale. This was planted last August 1st by seed and then overwintered under the domes. And we also had different lettuces in here too, so garden's doing exceptionally well. And you can eat all those flowers, which we do. We just add them to salads. And then over here you can see we have even more kale. So we're about to figure out how to manage all of this overabundance. It's gorgeous to look at and really creates a beautiful privacy screen when you're sitting over here. The other side of the garden here, we have all sorts of peppers planted. I've tried to also put lavender along the sides here, so sort of as you go by you sort of brush it and smell it. This is some, it was either mustard greens or some arugula that's also gone to seed. This beautiful plant that you see right here, this is called lovage, which you can add to salads. Apparently the seeds, stalks, and the leaves are all edible. We've been using the leaves in salad. It's a very nice citrusy celery taste. So very lovely. And you can see all of my garlic. We've just started to get the curly little part of your garlic. So this is my first year of growing garlic, and I'm very excited to see these beautiful little tails happening. So you can take those tails off and use them for pesto. And over here we have some pink celery and some basil and a bunch of radishes that have also gone to seed, but also new radishes all along the edge here. And then we also had all sorts of dill that reseeded itself, so happy to see those back. Over here we have peppers. We also have our first almost blooms for, you can see it right over there, first bloom just waiting to happen on our zucchini. So the bigger plants are the green zucchinis, and the smaller plants to the right and left are the yellow zucchinis. We also have lettuce interplanted here. It likes to be shaded. It'll grow better that way. Too hot, it bolts. And a lot more kale. And then over here we have a bunch of eggplant as well. Let me just pause. And you can see how what I was referring to the lavender. Hopefully it'll all grow like that. We've lost about half of what I planted last year, so see here, this is also more radishes planted on the exact same day as those other little ones, but they're doing exceptionally well. We have some beets in here, and I believe a couple more eggplants. Look at the size of those kales. And more garlic down here. And then over here, over here we have watermelon radishes. Hopefully they'll turn out. You can see they've already started to go to seed, but they haven't formed the radish, so not sure what I did wrong, but that's all the fun of learning here. In the middle of each of the beds I have planted marigolds. You can see them in the two beds here. I like to have diversity in all of my plantings here. Each of these beds are 6 by 6, and I plant them in quadrants, like triangles. Over here you can also see that I have a bunch of bok choy. And just by mixing things up, hopefully your bugs will be reduced as one lands on my hand. Just on the other side of the garden is wildness, a lot more of the lamb's ears. And you can see the arch is just right over there. We also have a bunch of lilies. Just a couple of days ago, it got really hot, and it pushed all of the peonies that were planted in here, pushed them through really quickly. It's the first time they've bloomed in about 9 years, so changing location and sometimes having patience will get you there. Look at this rose. This is a Rosa rugosa. It was originally in the back garden when we moved in, and it is the most abundant I've ever seen it. It's just beautiful as it's gone through there. I've learned that if I cut it less, that one seems to do better. And there's one last little iris down here from my mother-in-law. Beautiful color. And it's almost time to go in and get that rhubarb in the back there. This garden here requires some trimming. Need to come in and just trim back all of that boxwoods, because I'm actually going to plant a bunch of asparagus all behind there where that chair is. But I do like the colors and the textures and the way things have really created a beautiful privacy screen from the brand new house that was just built there. So just by our back deck here, I do have a pretty arrangement that I created a couple of years ago. It just has a nice little fern and sand that you can play with and manipulate. And then I brought my little Buddha head out here just for garden interest. And you can see we have a fire bowl and some pots, some things waiting to be burned on a nice evening. And also, this is a dry river, and I picked up those stones to create a couple of paths. They were just, my neighbor was getting rid of his path, so it gives me some free tools to work with. And then you can see here, this is just wild phlox. This self-seeds. It's so fragrant and so beautiful. Our Korean lilacs were the most magnificent this year ever. Beautiful, beautiful show. And let me just show you a couple of other veggies. Here we have potatoes. These are purple ones. And then we have some blueberry bushes, and then also some carrots. Nothing in that pot there. These are for the birds. Try to clean it out every 2 days, and the birds really appreciate it. They actually kind of squawk at me if it starts to get dirty. This is a Saskatoon berry, or service berry as we call it in Ontario. You can see the berries are already coming on strong, and the birds just eat that. This is a new garden that we planted last year. I've had to keep watering it. I've lost some of the plants, but in the back there are some raspberries. Gets just enough sun that we do get a nice crop, but not a big crop. Just going to show you, there are lots of the garden that is still to be worked on. I've got a canoe here that's going to be repaired, and a bit of work to clean up here. I'm standing right beside that canoe just to give you a view of how the garden looks from this angle, and then I'll go stand in front of the back deck there so you can see what it looks from the other angle. So now I'm standing at the back of the garden here, and you can see that no matter really what angle you're in the yard, it's just beautiful. Very peaceful, very calming. Alright, I'm just going to take you over to where I have all my succulents. We're about to do some work on them today, so let's go look at that pretty little area. Over to your right, you can see that there are some little small pots. Those two have strawberries. And then in the archway here, we also have nice plants, sort of to create a change in direction so that you can sort of re-envision that things might change as you go around the corner. So coming into this area, we do have some more herbs. Got some geraniums. We have some beautiful hostas that are nice and big. And then we also have a garbage bag that I forgot was here. And we have peas and beans and irises. It's also where my air conditioning sits. And yesterday I put this really pretty iron window up here, or stainless steel window, and I just love how it frames the area. Works exceptionally well with the pretty little fountain that has a hole in it, and I'm trying to decide how I could run a solar pump so that it could work, and I'll just plug up the hole, easy peasy. But look at all the succulents. I'm going to be cleaning all of those babies up. Might get rid of a bunch, like sell them on the street, see what happens. But tomato plant is doing really well. Look at the beans. And then down at my feet, we actually have more succulents. And we have peas doing really, really well. The last of these pretty irises. These are irises that were not doing that well, and you can see how much they've come back. They just needed a little bit more attention, and now I can plant them back out into the garden. So just to give you an idea of what the yard looks like if you were coming from this direction. A June garden tour if I didn't show you the peonies. We've already had a lot come and go, but we do have a couple of bushes that are still doing pretty well. So look how beautiful these peonies are. Sun's just hitting them. It's a beautiful flower. And you can see that the Leaf Elderberry is now in bloom. And yeah, it has gotten very, very tall, and I will just come in and trim that. I trim them several times a year. So for those of you that don't like trimming things, maybe not the best choice, but I really like the way that the green pops out of the burgundy leaves. It's just a beautiful plant. And underneath that, I have Tough Stuff Mountain Hydrangea, which you can see is going to be filled with blooms this year. And I do tuck in one little arrangement here. And these are all columbines that self-seed. Look how beautiful they are. So the same peonies. And we also have our little lime hydrangeas, which are just starting to form new growth, and that's where we'll get a lot of new blooms. So you can see how beautiful this looks against the window. Beautiful. I was on a garden tour once and I saw the hydrangeas right beside all of that beautiful plant, the cut leaf elderberry, and I went back and changed my plant selections. So we have another peony bush here, and then in the front I have my clematis, which is just starting to bloom. I did a major cut back on this, so I was worried that it might not come back, but you can see that it's actually climbing right up all of the trellis. The string is there to hold it in place. And then in the front I have 3 arrangements. This one here, they're all pretty similar, low maintenance, things that can withstand not being watered for a couple of days. I have my owls and the birch bark, peonies, begonias, fuchsia, and then I have a bunch of blue pots in the garage that are the exact same as this one, but in different sizes, and I'll just create a little succulent home arrangements here for that as well. I had to make sure that these got in the tour because these peonies are from my mom and dad's, and the plant itself was probably 90 years old, and so I took a chunk from them, and it's been in this garden for probably 20 years, and sadly they've lost all of their peonies, so I'm going to see if I can divide them all up again and they can have a section back. They had some flooding in their yard. Underneath it is a bunch of Shasta Daisies, so those will come in as soon as these are all finished up. And you can see as well that we have this rose that does incredibly well, and I do nothing to deserve its beauty. And then also in behind here, you can see that there are just a couple of alliums. Let me see if I can give you another view. So tucked in underneath the magnolia, there's just like 3 plants, and this year we have 5 stalks. Oh, don't you just love peonies? So pretty. And then we do have peonies as well that are just finishing up along the edge of the garden here. The irises were here too, and they just finished up. And then the smoke tree is looking fabulous. And then just finishing up on the tour, I had a bunch of euonymus that were growing up my chimney stack. Now euonymus can actually affect your brickwork, so not the best place for it to grow up. So instead what I did is I just put it over this archway, and now it's quite lovely. Now in terms of this walkway, these are still to be done. I just plunk a succulent in the middle of these arrangements, store them over the winter exactly as is, and you can see I've got a bunch more plants ready to go and some plants from inside that have come outside. And then up here I have a basket, and I just throw silks in there because it's just too dry. Nothing will grow in that area. And over here we have a bunch more hostas, and I have to take out all of the weeds around them because what I found was, as much as I love things like periwinkle or even lilies of the valley take over and they need to be trimmed out. And then just another little view of the garden as you come around the corner. Very beautiful. So thanks very much for joining me on this month's garden tour. We're still trying to decide whether we might move away from the construction, the large building that's being built behind the fence over here. You can just sort of maybe see over there on the right hand side one of the large trucks. It's quite disruptive. It's a Sunday morning. There's no construction today, so it's nice and quiet. Quiet enough that you can hear the mama robin feeding her babies. All right, thanks everyone for coming on board and enjoying the tour with me this month. Look forward to hearing from all of you. I love all of your comments and suggestions as we share the garden with you. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't like stuff, I'm always open to suggestions. Leave a comment, let me know what I can improve. But mainly what I love is all of your comments on how you share what's working in your garden and what's not. Take care, everyone.